Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Fair enough.
But oh man, yeah, I don't want it to end.
Uh,
But
Ben, I have you and I have to have a talk.
I have to let you guys go
oh no,
eventually. I know, but I'm not ready to release you yet.
Ben, you
So
and I have
so
to have a
Zach,
talk.
you've been suspiciously quiet.
well,
Zach,
yeah. I mean,
Zach, did
I
I?
don't think it's hard to respond to Kevin Strange graphically describing how he mutilated his own penis.
I think he's just not
Zach,
wanting to admit that he's got something else going on like that himself.
Zach, Zach,
Zach,
did
do you
I
have a
hurt you?
Prince Albert?
Did I hurt you with the whole shut up thing? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
You,
No,
you
I
don't
don't.
you
I
don't
have
sound
nothing
good.
to add to the
You don't
penis
you
piercing
don't sound
conversation.
good though. You you don't sound good. That's I'm saying I'm sorry I said it, but I was just trying to get my word in. Yeah.
Nah, I'm
You're
good.
just high.
Okay. You sure you good?
Yeah.
I worry about you guys. I don't know why.
All right, Ben.
We've been worrying about
Why?
you.
Nah.
Ben, you suggested a book to me last week called Perpetual War for Perpetual Peace.
Yeah.
And you sold it to me as a book that was about Waco and Ruby Ridge and the Oklahoma City bombing.
Well,
But
yeah, it mostly
you didn't tell
is.
me that it was that half of the book is about Gore Vidal being an apologist for Osama fucking bin Laden and 9/11.
I mean, that was kind of implied in the title. I mean, the whole thing was about the reactions to American interventions, both at home and abroad.
Well, I find it interesting. Like, obviously, I'm offended by that, and I think that
I
Osama bin
mean,
Laden
I
is a
don't.
piece of shit. But and I don't really care for Muslims either. But what I find really interesting about the whole first part of that book is it's such a snapshot of history, right? Where Gore Vidal is like he's sort of bragging about how much of an edgelord he is because no one would publish his pro Osama bin Laden pro Muslim piece because at the time 2002 I think is when he wanted, or maybe even late 2001 is when he wanted to publish this like apology piece about Osama bin Laden, why he was within his rights to want to attack the U.S. He talks about the cultural climate of the U.S. being extremely anti-Muslim and not wanting to even consider the fact that maybe Muslims kind of had it right as far as the what you were talking about American interventionism in the Middle East and everything. What I find interesting about him being like, look how much of an edgelord I am for wanting to write about this topic. In today's culture, we have Elon Omar in Congress, openly on the floor of Congress saying, "Oh, September 11th, you mean some people did something?" And it's we are so pro-Muslim now, and it's so politically incorrect to criticize Muslim culture in any way, shape, or form that it's really interesting to see 20 years. It only took 20 years for Gore Vidal's piece on Osama bin Laden to go from totally edgelord and unpublishable to standard leftist fodder. Is that fair?
I guess in some ways, I didn't really read his piece as a apology per se. I read it more as like an explanation. I mean, that seemed to be like the whole goal of the book. This idea that Osama is just evil. Well, I mean, no, there's you know an actual explanation for why he did what he did. It also like busts a few myths. I think like the idea that people only do this because they're ignorant or whatever. Well, Osama bin Laden was very highly educated, so that isn't true. Um, and on some and the thing is like there's kind of a divide in American culture in regards to that. I definitely do think like the media and celebrities and so forth make a lot of blanket kind of apologetics for Islam that are not necessarily deserved, but we're still in perpetual war with the Muslim world, and there's still a lot of cases of of Muslims facing discrimination in less, I guess, in middle America, I guess you would say.
There's not much of a middle America left, brother.
What are you talking about, middle America?
I don't. I mean, I can't think of a better word at this time. I guess like places that aren't New York and Los Angeles.
Were you saying that people in middle America are more likely to be anti-Muslim than somebody that's in a city?
Not necessarily more likely. I think that they're just more capable of getting away with acting on it.
I don't know. I think you've been watching too many CNN television shows or something.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's wrong to say that there is a divide between, I don't know what people usually call middle America and, places like
You just say conservative America and liberal America. You could say conservative America is still anti-Muslim, but I think that conservative America is much smaller than it was 20 years ago. Would be my point. There's a much smaller group of people that will openly criticize Islam compared to 20 years ago.
I would say I don't know about like raw numbers, but I definitely do think there's a case of the media is a lot more, a lot more hyper partisan, and it's definitely hyper partisan towards neoliberalism than it was before.
Well, okay, so the other, I haven't finished the book yet, but the other thing I wanted to say was if sort of his comments on Osama bin Laden are kind of more mainstream than they were previously, his section, which I haven't gotten to yet, but his section on Timothy McVeigh and Oklahoma City, I would say that is way outside of the bounds of political correctness. I would say that
definitely
he would be tarred and feathered and crucified for trying to publish an article today apologizing for or even trying to give humanity to Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing, and he would be called a white supremacist and a racist. So isn't it crazy how in 20 years one side of his argument became mainstream and the other side of his argument so one side was politically incorrect before, but now is sort of mainstream. The other side that would have been accepted before is now totally politically incorrect. It's like a total flip flop of cultural.
I mean, I don't think his explanation of Timothy McVeigh was really accepted back then either. I'm pretty sure he got a lot of criticism for, being, more sympathetic to Timothy McVeigh than, a lot of people were, but even for the longest time, people just kind of wrote Timothy McVeigh off as this psychotic baby killer.
Right.
And I definitely think that, even more recently, I developed skepticism about that. And I think Gore Vidal does a really good job of, really refuting that. And I do think he makes some interesting points about the possibility of him being a fall man for something else.
Because the argument is kind of like there's no conceivable way 200 little kids would have been in a daycare in a federal building to begin with, right? That the idea that a federal building would have a daycare that big is ludicrous.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of suspect. And it's kind of accepted it's apparently was accepted, like it talks about in the book, how he probably had an accomplice that at least one that he refused to talk about, which is understandable. And at the same time, it did seem clear that McVeigh did have motivations beyond just I'm just a psycho who wants to kill people.
Maybe it wasn't a daycare. Maybe it wasn't a daycare. Maybe it was a brothel.
That's a good point because Pizzagate is real. But
right.
But I also think I don't really see how you could accept the one thing that McVeigh probably had a point about why he did what he did, whereas you can just completely write Osama bin Laden off. I don't think you can.
I don't write Osama bin Laden off. I just don't agree with Muslim culture in any way, shape, or form. So it's kind of like I understand that he's human and he had his religious motivations for doing what he did, but I think those religious motivations are some of the most evil things in human history. I think that we've had to battle back. We, as in the European culture, has had to battle the Muslim hordes back for thousands of years to keep from being completely overrun and having European culture obliterated off the face of the planet. So while I understand the motivation for conquest, I also know that it's my own culture and my own children's future at stake if someone like Osama bin Laden achieves his goal. I can't let him win.
And that's the thing. I think the relationship between what we call the West with the Muslim world is a lot more nuanced than people give it credit for. I mean, the very first country to recognize the United States as an independent nation was a Muslim country, Morocco, and they've been an ally with us, almost literally from day one. And of course, there's the very pernicious relationship between the West and Saudi Arabia.
This is true, but I don't want to get in the weeds about the good Muslims because I really don't like Muslim culture at all. Even the good Muslims are bad people, in my opinion.
I mean,
just from a cultural perspective, the way they treat women, the way they treat children, especially the way they treat women, the way they cover women, the way they genitally mutilate women. They still have open. I mean, was Morocco selling slaves in open slave markets and mutilating female genitals at the same time they were waving the U.S. flag? I mean, fuck them. I don't care if they waved our flag.
I'm pretty sure they didn't. Morocco has been a pretty international country for the most part. If you go to the bigger, I've actually been to Morocco. If you go to like Casablanca or to what's that place called? I can't remember the name of the other cities. Like I said, I've had too much to drink, but yeah, they're basically just big cities. Occasionally, like a lot of the women there don't even wear like headscarves.
Well, that's good. I mean, there are some Eastern or Middle Eastern countries, and Saudi Arabia is one of those, that they don't really follow strict Muslim traditions. They're more like you're saying.
Saudi Arabia is actually very strict with its traditions. It's ridiculous. Or were you saying that they do? I'm sorry, did I mishear you?
No, I was using them as an example of this is my cultural ignorance, because I despise Muslim culture so much I don't even bother to differentiate between the different countries. I'm a bigot. I'm a big old ignorant bigot.
Yeah, and I did. There's definitely like a nuance to the history of it. Like most Muslim countries, for the longest time, were pretty. I guess what you. I don't know. I guess you would call modern and liberal. But around the beginning of like I think it was probably a mix of communism and intervention from like I said, quote unquote, the West that kind of helped push the Muslim Brotherhood to try to take power, which pushed them into these retrograde kind of attitudes.
Well, assalamu alaikum, my brother. I don't know what else to say about your apology tour for the Muslim world here.
I mean, I'm not really apologizing for it. I just think there's more nuance than people give it.
I'm just being an ass.
Yeah, I know, and
I don't know if they're capable of nuance, to be honest. The way they act.
And you can also like point to other things, like when Saudi Arabia was, before it was Saudi Arabia, when it was, there were territorial disputes between everyone. Like Britain, even though they knew that the House of Saud were a bunch of murderous psychopaths, they still threw their support behind them because the House of Saud was pro-Britain.
Like I said, I don't know what else to say other than praise be to Allah.
Anyway,
is this really
what I know is that this is Jeremy's show.
There.
This is Jeremy's show.
What about it?
No, it's mine. I
Jeremy's
declare
show. You guys are running roughshod all over Jeremy's show.
No, I let him go for this. I wanted to hear it, but is this really happening right now?
What happening? Are you so high you don't know if this is real?
Yeah, kind of foggy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's real enough. What is real?
Yeah. So here's
Iran. Is this a dream?
Iran used to be beautiful and free, and now it's like a garbage wasteland of like hate. Look at
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's still like somewhat more liberal than a lot of other countries, like I said, Saudi Arabia, but and it's not even really an Arab country; it's Persian. But yeah, there's definitely like that problem with it.
The
I mean,
1979 Muslim
I don't.
Islamic Revolution
Yeah,
ruined them.
yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't like Islam either. I think it was something concocted to justify a pan-Arabic empire.
What, Pan-Herdic? What?
Pan-Arabic empire, like a way to, you know, create a Arab empire all across the Middle East and Northern Africa.
Well, Eli tapped out, but it's good to know he's back and watching us.